Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, and shockingly, somehow we're ready for another tour through the video game trap house that is Super Sega FPGA, because suddenly Alejandro is all the rage again. He keeps popping up on his YouTube channel, posting so many different strange things. If you missed the video maybe about a week and a half ago, he went to a retro gaming convention in Spain and tried to get a charity booth to sell a Super Sega FPGA prototype with no FPGA chip inside of it. But Alejandro is back, he's here in force, and he is ready to talk about the Super Sega FPGA Mini, the next in a long line of imaginary devices that the old Ron Jeremy of Spain here just seems to think he can pull out of his own you-know-where and sell it to people. And he's even talking about crowdfunding as well, and you know full well how that would go. But if you wanted to see our man himself, the hardest working man in FPGA gaming, the Salvador Dali of scams without his shirt on, staring directly into a camera, well, you're gonna have that here today. And again, at this point in time, we just make these videos for fun, to talk about FPGA gaming and to tell you that you really shouldn't trust many companies out there, especially ones called Super Sega. If you have missed all the videos on this over Memorial Day weekend, I will put up a supercut almost 5 hours long of the entire story from start to finish for you to watch, because this saga has been absolutely insane. I cannot believe it's gone anywhere near as long as it has, and honestly, Alejandro loves the spotlight and we're happy to give it to him in the funniest ways possible. But obviously there is no Dreamcast FPGA from Super Sega, and now with the Super Sega Mini, air quotes, because I'm sure it is imaginary as well, they're just talking about basically recreating a MiSTer FPGA in a box, and we don't need any more of those, and we definitely don't need them from Ron Jeremy himself here. But honestly, between the white coat with the overall black pinstriping looking like he's wearing a Miami tuxedo and everything else going on in this world, it's just been absolutely hilarious. And now again, Alejandro's here with a ton of new quote-unquote information about Super Sega FPGA, but of course he starts the entire video talking about different things like his motorcycle apparently going for inspection, his dad brought it over for him, and then he's going to talk about stuff like trying to sell one of his motorcycles or Lamborghinis to cover the cost of the Super Sega Mini, but then he talks about pre-order campaigns, crowdfunding, all sorts of different insanity. But the entire point is Alejandro is not going to stop. He still thinks there's people out there that would be willing to give him money and front him money to make this Super Sega Mini, and again, because now it's not that big design that he says he was making that had the working Dreamcast core. It's basically just going to be everything under Dreamcast, which we already have. And that's not to say that I think this thing is actually real. Alejandro said in the video he was going to send prototypes out to different people to talk about FPGA gaming and mention my channel specifically, and honestly, I don't expect to get anything sent in from him outside of maybe some shrimp and potatoes in a box. If that makes no sense whatsoever, the lore behind Super Sega FPGA and Alejandro is deep. There's so many different jokes about shrimp, potatoes, Lamborghinis, cigarettes, different types of beer, scamming people for gas money at a gas station. There are so many different wild things going on. It may be the most fun I've ever had talking about any sort of gaming stuff on the channel, just because we've had a good sense of humor about it. And if there's one thing I will give Alejandro credit for, and the only thing is, he seems to share that sense of humor about himself and everyone that makes videos about him. He even tries to get in contact with basically all of us to give us new information. But pretty much every video that's supposed to be about this air quote Super Sega Mini just evolves into complete random talking at the beginning. We're talking about hospitals, we're talking about motorcycles going to the Department of Transportation, we're talking about a car that's missing glass, and somebody again in an apartment or in a hospital. Now granted, I do need to use auto-translate on YouTube, so some of this isn't going to be quite correct, but he does at some point in time actually start talking about the Super Sega Mini, his plans for it to be manufactured this fall, the pre-order campaign, the crowdfunding campaign, maybe selling a vehicle to be able to pay for it. So it seems like he still insists that there is some sort of product that he can ship to people that will run every Sega game up to the Sega Saturn. Now of course we know how this has gone up to this point in time, so I would take that with the tiniest grain of salt. Honestly, that salt washed away into the ocean and melted a long time ago, because there really isn't anything here. You'll see here they're talking about the terms, and he told a factory that'll pay him half and then pay the rest later. I would not extend Alejandro a nickel's worth of credit. If you give him any credit, you should expect to never see it again, because again, between Cinemartin, between Super Sega, between a cell phone scam, and between some sort of taxi app that apparently was fake as well, it is just absolutely all wild. But don't listen to me, listen to the man, the myth, the legend, the Ron Jeremy of Spain, the Salvador Dali of scams himself, and let him tell you about what's going on, and I'll be right back with more.
Os pago el resto, la otra mitad, y para que un mes antes de que acabe el 2025, en noviembre, esté ya producida. Y mal les he dicho, porque sabéis que en invierno viene el pelotazo, ¿no? La gente de la Navidad, los Reyes Magos, Melchor, va a saltar el vecino y Gaspar y toda esa película, ¿no? Que aquí estamos cayendo los Reyes Magos. Entonces, y les digo al final, y si hasta nos quedamos sin un chavo, porque es posible, y no funciona el crowdfunding, entonces les he pedido que me permitan comprar según se vendan. Si el crowdfunding nos... Primero hay que esperar que yo tenga pasta, que pague a esta gente con el coche, que pase los meses, a ver si estamos en verano, a ver si tengo los prototipos, los mando, la gente los prueba, tal. Luego pago la otra mitad, bla, 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 prodúcelos, y entonces que nos plantamos en noviembre y no tengo un chavo, entonces se hace un crowdfunding de 30 días máximo, para que el 1 de diciembre, que no hay pasta, oye asiático, déjame que te vaya pagando tal cual vaya vendiendo.
So obviously Alejandro is going to do another crowdfunding campaign or some sort of sales portal or something with PayPal to try to get up enough money to make this manufacturing run, and I am sure you don't need to be told exactly how that will turn out if it actually happens. I can't imagine at this point in time anyone putting any money down whatsoever, because myself, Ian Lee, DJ Slopes, and many other channels have talked about just exactly who Alejandro is, what he's up to, what he does, and how nothing he actually promises has ever been delivered, because this is number 5 in a list of companies and products he has been involved in, all of which that have raised money and all of which that have never shipped whatsoever. Feels like he maybe got the closest with the Cinemart, because that camera did exist, it was sent to a reviewer, and it did actually turn on and function as a rudimentary camera. So it's one of those things, not every single thing is completely imaginary, some things are just like 95% imaginary, and it's just, again, so wild that he thinks he can continue to actually try to sell a product. I can't imagine what news site who would be willing to actually put their seal of approval on it and say, you know what, Alejandro is trustworthy and you should give him your money, because honestly we have more of a likelihood of Alejandro floating down from the sky on a cloud with light beams of sun just streaming through that glorious hair of his than we do of a Super Sega Mini actually coming to market. Now, I think what he probably would do here is just try to put a software emulator inside of a box and maybe call it a day. There is some space here to just basically throw up some of the most simple stuff in a box and try to sell it at a premium price to maybe actually eke out a profit, actually ship something that would basically make it not a scam. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I thought we were done with this story completely, but obviously now we're all invested again in the video game Trap House. We're going to have to follow it from start to finish, because he is no longer making the Super Sega console, quote unquote, with the quote unquote Dreamcast core, because the two prototypes, one was basically sold apparently at some charity auction booth at a retro gaming convention, missing the chip that they stated was FPGA, and the other one seems to be in a box at his house, and I would love to get my hands on that. So again, Alejandro, if you're listening, I got $1,000 American sent to you however you want it. Immediately when it arrives to my doorstep, I open the box and that board is in there with the FPGA chip, because the closest we've gotten to actually seeing it is when Ian Lee got Alejandro to take the heatsink off on a video. And I will leave a link to Ian Lee's channel down below as well. Super awesome dude. It's been a lot of fun talking to him about this entire process. But what we see here, we really can't identify whatsoever. Obviously, it is a die and a substrate, but I have no idea what that chip is, because I really can't get close enough to be able to read any of the markings on it. Is it possible just some off-the-shelf FPGA that's hot glued down? It is. Is it possible just some sort of South Bridge from an old PC motherboard? Definitely possible as well. The reality is we know it's not running an FPGA core for Dreamcast, because if he actually had one, and we know he doesn't, even if this project didn't come to fruition, he could just sell that FPGA core to some other developer or some other board maker who could actually ship it, and we would be playing it in about 6 months. There are no cores that run on that box, so it was all just a software emulator masquerading as an FPGA device. And again, Alejandro here just insists that there's going to be a crowdfunding campaign, there's going to be a Kickstarter, and he's going to ship you a Super Sega Mini this fall. If you believe that, honestly, I could probably sell you a bridge in England, because you just basically believe everything. But at this point in time, we know nobody believes it, because it's been talked about to death, and we're just basically here now for the fun of it all. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, does Alejandro have a face you trust, or do you think the Super Sega Mini is just one more cash grab? Next time something happens in the Super Sega saga, I'll definitely take a look at it, but for now, we're leaving the video game Trap House behind, and we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.